There is a specific kind of silence that tends to worry the most attentive supporters. It is not the silence of empty stands or heavy defeats, but the one that comes before a major move, when very little leaks out and almost everything happens away from the spotlight. In recent days, St. James Park has been breathing exactly this atmosphere. Between closed training sessions, private conversations, and carefully calculated decisions, something is starting to take shape behind the scenes at Newcastle United, sparking curiosity and expectation. Those who follow the club closely can sense that the moment calls for caution and strategy. The season moves on, fixtures pile up, and every detail begins to carry more weight than it might appear at first glance. It is not just about immediate results, but about how the squad will cope with the intensity of the coming weeks. And it is precisely in this context that important decisions are usually made, often before the public notices any clear sign of what lies ahead. For supporters, this is that period when rumors start to emerge, but not all of them make sense straight away. Some seem too far-fetched, others unlikely, and there are also those that, when analyzed calmly, begin to fit perfectly into the club's reality. It is at this point that curiosity grows and fans start connecting the dots, trying to understand what the next step from the board and coaching staff will be. Meanwhile, Eddie Howe and his staff continue working under silent pressure. The schedule offers no respite, and the level of competition keeps rising. In scenarios like this, it is not enough to rely solely on the initial planning for the season. Adjustments become necessary, especially when unforeseen issues arise and force the club to rethink certain choices. For those who enjoy following the inner workings of Newcastle United, this is one of those moments when it is worth paying close attention to every detail and, of course, leaving a like and subscribing to the channel so you do not miss any important updates. According to recent information, Newcastle United have already made contact and started to move in the market in search of a specific name to strengthen the defensive department. It is a young player with relevant experience in Europe and a past link to one of the Premier League's biggest clubs. This is not a move that appears by chance, but a direct response to a delicate situation currently affecting the squad at this stage of the season. The background to this movement is a genuine injury crisis that has drastically reduced Eddie Howe's defensive options. At present, the head coach has only 4 senior defenders who are fully fit, which naturally raises alarm bells. In a season featuring decisive Premier League matches and important European commitments, this scenario becomes even more concerning. It is no exaggeration to say that any new physical setback could compromise the club's immediate planning. The situation became even more delicate after Fabian Schär underwent ankle surgery last Thursday. The Swiss defender is expected to be sidelined at least until April, leaving a significant gap in the heart of defense. At the same time, Tino Livramento is dealing with a thigh problem and could be out until March. These are key absences that force the coaching staff to look for quick solutions, even if temporary, to maintain the team's competitiveness. In addition, Newcastle still have no defined return date for Emil Kraft and Jamal Lascelles. Neither player has featured since November. Kraft continues his recovery from a knee injury, while Lascelles works to regain full fitness amid speculation about a possible departure from the club. This situation leaves the defensive unit even more vulnerable and considerably limits rotation options within the squad. Among the few pieces of good news, Dan Burn is the one closest to returning to action. Even so, expectations are that he will still need around a week before being available. Until then, Eddie Howe is likely to rely mainly on Kieran Trippier, Malik Theo, Sven Botman and Lewis Hall as the only experienced defenders for the upcoming fixtures against PSV, Eindhoven in the Champions League and Aston Villa in the Premier League. Given this scenario, it comes as no surprise that Newcastle are exploring the transfer market with greater intensity. The club knows it cannot afford unnecessary risks, especially at such a decisive stage of the season. The board understands that reinforcing the squad now could be the difference between maintaining a competitive level or suffering dips caused by physical fatigue and a lack of options on the bench. It is within this context that the name gaining traction behind the scenes emerges. According to journalist Ben Jacobs, Newcastle United have made contact to express interest in a defender currently playing in Italy. The report also states that Everton and West Ham United are monitoring the same situation, which increases competition and could speed up decisions in the coming weeks. This detail makes the story even more intriguing for supporters. The player in question is Brook Norton Cuffy, a 22-year-old right-back who belongs to Genoa, a product of Arsenal's academy. He built his career through several loan spells at clubs in the lower divisions of English football, such as Lincoln City, Rotherham United, Coventry City and Millwall. This journey helped shape a player better prepared for the demands of top-level football. Norton Cuffy moved to Genoa in the summer of 2024 and quickly established himself as an important part of the team. This Serie A season, he has started 19 of the 21 matches played, showing consistency and reliability. Despite missing the most recent game against Parma due to a minor muscular issue, his importance to the Italian side is clear, which explains the interest from Premier League clubs. According to information shared by Ben Jacobs, Genoa would be willing to negotiate the player for around €20 million, a figure close to £17.4 million. For a young player with international experience and a background in English clubs, this amount is seen as relatively affordable in the current market. Even so, any investment of this size requires careful consideration from Newcastle. It is worth stressing that interest does not mean a deal is done. Newcastle are currently assessing scenarios, costs, and the real need to act immediately. The board is well aware that the January transfer window is complex and often inflated. For that reason, every step is taken cautiously, always seeking the best balance between sporting necessity and financial responsibility. In an interview given last Friday, Eddie Howe spoke openly about the club's transfer plans. The manager highlighted that the current moment is still one of observation and that many variables need to be considered before any final decision is made. According to him, the situation remains undefined, but the work behind the scenes is intense, with a focus on being ready to act if required. Howe also reinforced that all options are being analyzed collectively. He emphasized the importance of assessing not only the present, but also the medium and long-term impact of any decisions. Factors such as cost-benefit, availability of the right players, and the balance between summer and January window activity are all part of this complex equation. The manager also commented on the expectation of having Don Burn back soon, describing his return as a major boost. However, Howe made it clear that, given the number of matches ahead, it is essential to assess the risk of further injuries and the true depth of the squad. This reinforces the idea that Newcastle are not ruling out any possibility at this stage. For supporters, all of this creates a strong sense of anticipation. The prospect of the club moving decisively in the market, especially at such a delicate point in the season, sparks debate and analysis. That is precisely why following these developments closely makes such a difference. If you want to stay up to date with every update and understand the reasoning behind these decisions, subscribing to the channel is a simple way to make sure you miss nothing. Norton Cuffy's situation perfectly illustrates the type of opportunity Newcastle might consider. A young player already adapted to European football with experience in competitive leagues and capable of offering both immediate and future solutions. At the same time, interest from other Premier League clubs shows how alert the market is and how quick decisions can be decisive. There is still no guarantee that the deal will progress, but the mere fact that Newcastle have made contact indicates the club is attentive and willing to act. In a context filled with physical uncertainties within the squad, any reinforcement could provide greater security for Eddie Howe when selecting his teams for the decisive matches that lie ahead.